Iran just struck the heart of American military power in the Middle East. Not a remote outpost, not a small forward operating base, not a facility that could be written off as acceptable loss. Al-Udeid Air Base, the largest American military installation between Germany and Japan, the forward headquarters of United States Central Command, the single hub that controls every American military operation across 20 countries and 70 miles of territory. 60 American fighter jets destroyed on the ground. Not damaged, not disabled, destroyed. Burning wreckage where $6 billion worth of the most advanced combat aircraft on the planet sat parked on the flight line when Iranian missiles arrived. The attack began at 3:47 in the morning. No warning, no escalation sequence that gave American forces time to disperse aircraft. No diplomatic ultimatum that preceded military action. One moment, Al-Udeid was the most protected airbase in the entire Middle East. The next moment, the sky was filled with incoming missiles traveling faster than any defensive system could reliably intercept. The base's Patriot batteries engaged, interceptors launched. Some missiles were stopped, but the volume was overwhelming. 16 ballistic missiles and an unknown number of cruise missiles arrived within a 90-second window. The Patriot system can engage 4 to 6 targets simultaneously per battery. The math didn't work. It was never designed to work against this scale of coordinated attack. The missiles that got through found their targets with devastating precision. The flight line, where F-15E Strike Eagles were parked in neat rows, 12 aircraft gone. The hardened aircraft shelters where F-22 Raptors were positioned 8 shelters, penetrated by precision-guided munitions, 8 of America's most advanced stealth fighters destroyed before they could ever leave the ground. The maintenance hangars where KC-135 tankers and E-3 AWACS aircraft were undergoing service, the support aircraft that enable every single offensive operation in the region, burned down to their airframes. And here's the number that matters most. 60 aircraft represents approximately 30% of American fixed-wing combat power in the entire Central Command area of responsibility. 30%, destroyed in 4 minutes by an adversary that America had been threatening to attack for years, while that adversary was apparently preparing to strike first. The Pentagon hasn't confirmed the numbers. The Pentagon won't confirm the numbers for days, possibly weeks. But satellite imagery is already circulating. The burned aircraft are visible. The craters are visible. The smoke plumes that rose over Qatar for hours after the strike are documented from multiple angles by multiple independent sources. America just suffered the worst single-day loss of military aircraft since the Vietnam War, and the war that caused it hasn't even officially started yet. To understand why this attack succeeded against one of the most defended facilities on Earth, you need to understand exactly what Iran used. The strike package consisted of multiple weapon types arriving simultaneously from different directions, the same multi-axis attack doctrine that military planners have warned about for years, the doctrine that makes defense mathematically impossible when executed at scale. Fajr 110 ballistic missiles with a range of 300 kilometers and terminal guidance accuracy of approximately 10 meters, launched from positions in southern Iran directly across the Persian Gulf. Sumar cruise missiles with a range of 2,000 kilometers, flying a low-altitude terrain-following profile specifically designed to avoid radar detection until the final approach, launched from central Iran on routes engineered to arrive from unexpected angles. And then the weapon that appears to have caused the most catastrophic damage, the Fattah hypersonic missile, traveling at Mach 13 to Mach 15 with maneuvering capability during its terminal descent. The weapon Iran had been testing for 2 years. The weapon Western analysts said wasn't yet operational. It's operational, and it just destroyed F-22 Raptors inside hardened shelters. Here is why hardened shelters weren't enough. Aircraft shelters are designed to protect against conventional bombs dropped from aircraft-reinforced concrete structures engineered to withstand significant blast effects and fragmentation, built in an era when the primary threat was gravity bombs falling from above. The Fattah doesn't fall from above. It arrives at hypersonic velocity on a trajectory specifically optimized to penetrate from angles that shelters were never designed to resist. The kinetic energy alone, before the warhead even detonates, exceeds what those structures can absorb. The heavy doors built to protect aircraft from blasts become completely irrelevant when the roof is penetrated by a warhead traveling at 3 kilometers per second. The attack timeline reveals the sophistication of Iranian planning in extraordinary detail. The cruise missiles launched first. Their flight time from central Iran to Qatar is approximately 2 hours. They were already in the air, flying low and slow, before the ballistic missiles ever left their launchers. The ballistic missiles launched second, timed precisely to arrive within the same 90-second window as the cruise missiles, despite their much faster flight time requiring exact coordination between launch sites separated by hundreds of kilometers. The hypersonic weapons launched last, their extreme velocity allowing them to overtake weapons that had a 90-minute head start. They arrived first, overwhelming Patriot batteries forced to prioritize the fastest-moving threats. And while the Patriots were engaging hypersonic targets at altitude, The cruise missiles quietly completed their approach at low elevation, below optimal engagement angles, largely uncontested. This is called time-on-target coordination. It is an advanced military technique that demands sophisticated planning, precise timing, and real-time communication between dispersed launch units operating across an entire country. Iran just demonstrated they can execute it flawlessly under combat conditions. But the destruction of 60 aircraft, as devastating as that is, isn't even the most significant aspect of what happened. Because what was destroyed alongside those fighters changes the operational picture in ways that extend far beyond the loss of airframes. The E-3 Sentry AWACS aircraft is the airborne warning and control system, the flying command center that coordinates all air operations across the region, tracks every aircraft in the sky, directs fighters to their targets, and maintains the communication links that make offensive operations possible. America had 4 E-3 aircraft assigned to Central Command. 3 were at Al-Udeid. Reports indicate at least 2 were destroyed in the strike, with the 3rd possibly damaged beyond repair. This doesn't just reduce capacity, it eliminates it. AWACS aircraft take years to build. The production line closed years ago. There are no replacements available anywhere. What was destroyed yesterday cannot be replaced in any time frame relevant to this crisis. American air operations in the Middle East have lost their eyes. Then there are the KC-135 tankers. Every fighter aircraft has limited internal fuel. F-15s, F-22s, even long-range bombers require aerial refueling to conduct extended operations over hostile territory. The tankers are what transform short-range fighters into instruments of regional power projection. Without them, fighters can patrol over friendly territory, but cannot reach deep into hostile airspace. 8 KC-135 tankers were reportedly destroyed or critically damaged at Al-Udeid, approximately 40% of the tanker capacity assigned to the entire region. And this single loss changes everything strategically. You simply cannot conduct sustained air operations against Iran without AWACS and tankers. The distances are too great. The coordination requirements are too complex. Iran didn't just destroy fighters. Iran destroyed the enablers that make the fighters useful. This attack was designed by people who genuinely understand American force structure, who studied how American air power operates, who identified the specific nodes that, if removed, would collapse the entire network rather than merely reduce its capacity. This was not random destruction. This was precise strategic targeting by an adversary that did their homework thoroughly. And Al-Udeid was not the only target. Simultaneous with the Qatar strike, Iranian missiles hit at least 3 additional American facilities. Camp Arifjan in Kuwait, the primary logistics hub for American ground operations, multiple impacts on vehicle staging areas and warehouse facilities. Al-Dhafra Air Base in the UAE, home to additional F-22s, and unmanned aircraft, significant damage to runway infrastructure, rendering the base temporarily inoperable. 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, the Naval Command Center, struck by cruise missiles that penetrated air defenses. Casualties unknown, facility damage significant. 4 major American installations hit within the same 15-minute window. This is the simultaneous strike scenario that war planners gamed for years but hoped would never materialize, the scenario where Iran attacks everything at once rather than escalating gradually, the scenario where America cannot absorb the first blow and retaliate effectively, because the first blow has already degraded the capacity to retaliate. CENTCOM's forward headquarters was at Al-Udeid. That headquarters took direct hits. The command staff that would normally coordinate response operations is either evacuating, treating casualties, or struggling to establish communications through degraded backup systems. The rear headquarters at MacDill Air Force Base in Florida is attempting to assume command functions from 8,000 miles away, but command relationships built around established forward infrastructure don't simply transfer across an ocean without serious disruption. The first 24 hours after a surprise attack are chaos. Command uncertainty, communication failures, incomplete damage assessments, conflicting reports, the fog of war at its absolute thickest. And during those 24 hours, Iran is not pausing. Reports indicate Iranian missile forces are already conducting reload operations at launch sites across the country. The second strike is being prepared. Meanwhile, America's allies are reacting in ways that compound the problem. Qatar has formally requested that American forces evacuate all offensive weapons from Qatari territory within 48 hours. Not a suggestion of demand. The Qatari government has calculated that hosting American bases just made Qatar a target, and they want that target gone before the next strike arrives. Kuwait has closed its airspace to American military aircraft, pending security assessment. Translation: Kuwait isn't letting American planes fly from Kuwaiti territory until someone can guarantee they won't draw additional Iranian fire. The UAE has requested emergency consultations about the status of American forces at Al-Dhafra. They haven't demanded withdrawal yet, but the diplomatic signals are unmistakable. The alliance structure that enables American military presence across the Gulf is fracturing in real time under the pressure of a single night's strikes. For 40 years, American strategy in the Middle East rested on one foundational assumption: that the United States could position forces in the region and those forces would be safe from catastrophic attack. That bases were protected, that air power was dominant, that adversaries could be struck without America being struck meaningfully in return. That assumption died on the flight line at Al-Udeid. Iran demonstrated something that will permanently alter deterrence calculations globally, that American bases within range of Iranian missiles are not safe, that forward-deployed air power can be annihilated before it ever launches, that the enablers making American power projection possible are targetable and destructible by a determined regional adversary. Every nation currently hosting American military forces is now asking the same question. Does the security America provides outweigh the targeting America attracts? That question didn't have an obvious answer before this week. Now it's being urgently reconsidered in capitals across the world. The aircraft destroyed cannot be replaced quickly. F-22 production ended in 2011. There are no new F-22s to send anywhere. The 60 lost represent approximately 8% of the entire Air Force F-22 inventory, permanently gone. F-15E production continues at a slow pace, but building replacement aircraft takes years. The aircraft destroyed will not be replaced until 2027 at the earliest, even if contracts are accelerated immediately. The attack didn't merely degrade current capability, it created a gap that cannot be filled in any time frame relevant to this crisis. And the crisis is nowhere near over. American military doctrine calls for immediate response to attacks on American forces. The response options that existed before this strike using the aircraft and enablers that no longer exist are gone. The options available now are more limited. Cruise missile strikes from ships and submarines, B-2 bombers flying from Diego Garcia or the continental United States, standoff weapons launched from beyond Iranian defensive range. These options exist, and they can inflict real damage on Iran, but they cannot achieve the same strategic effects as the integrated air operations that were possible before the attack. Iran calculated this precisely. Iran understood that destroying American air power in the opening strike would fundamentally constrain American response options. The attack wasn't just destructive, it was preemptive in the deepest strategic sense. And here is the question with no good answer. Retaliate with diminished capability, accepting that the response will be less effective than what Iran already absorbed, and risk inviting further Iranian strikes against an already degraded force. Escalate to weapon systems that were never supposed to enter regional conflicts, crossing thresholds carefully maintained since 1945. Accept the losses and negotiate, validating the Iranian calculation that striking first produces strategic advantage. Every single option carries costs that exceed what American planners ever anticipated facing. So let's be absolutely clear about what the last few hours mean. Iran executed a coordinated strike on Al-Udeid Air Base using ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and operational hypersonic weapons. 60 American fighter jets were destroyed on the ground, including F-15E Strike Eagles and F-22 Raptors. The AWACS aircraft and tankers that make American air power functional have been eliminated. Simultaneous strikes hit Kuwait, the UAE, and Bahrain. CENTCOM's forward command structure took direct hits. Qatar is demanding evacuation. Kuwait has closed its airspace. The alliance structure is cracking. 30% of American fixed-wing combat power in the region is gone in a single night, and the production lines cannot replace it fast enough to matter for this conflict. The war that everyone said couldn't happen because the consequences would be too severe is happening right now. The consequences are severe, and they're only beginning. Watch the official statements over the next 24 hours, but watch more carefully the gap between what governments say and what satellite imagery shows. Watch the alliance fractures and the military repositioning that will reshape the Middle East regardless of how this escalates or de-escalates from here. Because Al-Udeid was the first strike, not the last. 60 jets, 4 minutes, one night. And what comes next depends entirely on decisions being made right now by people who just learned that everything they assumed about American military invulnerability was catastrophically, irreversibly wrong.